What's up, YouTube? QahirTheConqueror here. Welcome back to my channel for yet again another video. I'm gonna talk about healing and as an adult. This video will hit if you're above like 21, 22, and I'm not past late 20s yet, so I think in that range. To begin, I think it's important that at some point you should try to heal. No matter your socio-economic level, your race and ethnicity, your age, your gender, let's move that aside. We all have gone through something or a few things at one point that have affected us in our development, whether we know it or not. And as you get older, and once you start to get in your 20s, and I will say I'm past the age where my frontal lobe is developed, but not super far beyond that. And once your lobe develops, you just see things differently. The way you perceive life in the world and things just become different. I believe if you're wise, you start to focus on the things that really matter. So I say all of that to say, you probably have been through something, and unless you had therapists on deck and the most supportive friends and family and partner and stuff like that, you might have suppressed something you didn't know you did. You might have been affected by something that affected you, whether it was marginal or whether it was drastic, that changed you in some sort of way. So Q, why are you bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because, speak personally from my journey, I have learned, because I'm very, very reflective. I'm one of those people that I can't get out of my head, but it's helped me and served me in many ways, more than it has hurt me, but it does hurt me as well. But I'm always reflecting and thinking and going over things, but I am trying to heal. I want to say I'm no wellness expert, therapist, psychologist. I don't want to pretend like I'm something I'm not, but I am somebody who has put in the work, and I will try and aspire to continue to put in the work to heal, because it's important. There are a lot of people out here just moving like zombies, waking up, going to work, partying, having fun and doing it all over again or whatever you do, but just living a very shallow life and just on the surface level with everything. And I don't think that's good. I don't think that healing should be considered a finite point. It shouldn't be considered linear. I don't think that there is a beginning and an end. I think that it's a journey that should be prolonged forever. It should be perpetual. And you should consider healing in terms of perpetuity, because life is life, as I've mentioned in hundreds of videos by now, and it's going to do what life does. The reason that I think as an adult you should start focusing on that, because number one, as a child and when you're young and you're 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and even a little further into that, you're being manipulated by hormones that are developing, and your body's developing, and you're getting exposed to certain things, and you know what I mean? You're young, you're fearless, and certain things should not be at the forefront of your priorities. Like when you're 16, unless you got the best parents and setup or whatever, you're not worried about credit. Like you probably don't want to destroy your credit if you even have a credit card, but that's not what you're thinking about. You're probably thinking about whatever came on TV, whatever sport is going on, silly stuff with your friends, probably video games, whatever. Once you get past all of that, as I mentioned before, the things that you experienced and went through and happened to you, whatever good or bad, you start to get a better understanding of like, okay, this is kind of why I'm the way I am when it comes to this situation. Or, you know what, my dad always I'm like my dad in that way. Or, man, my mom and blah, blah, blah. You start to connect the dots in a way. Hopefully you start to see some of the things that you could improve on, and then you start to see some of the things that others around you, when they interacted with you, they could have improved on. As an adult, it is important for you to try to heal whatever heal from whatever it was, whatever it is that is bothered you, is bothering you, whatever, because those things, they don't go away. It's easy to just put it in the back of your mind, but eventually that stuff is gonna come forward. And if you never processed it, if you never dealt with it, it can come back to haunt you in a way. You might look back and think, man, when I was this age and when I was, blah, 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 I didn't handle that right. I treated them bad. Like, that stuff comes to the forefront of your memory. Also, some of the things you experienced, like, man, when I was a baby, this happened to me, or I saw this and, X, Y, and Z. That affected me more than I knew it did. Because one thing I've learned from a book I read called The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog, I think the author's name is Dr. Bruce Perry, is that there's a belief, whether it's factual or not, I don't think you can prove it, so it probably will remain an abstract concept, is that as children, when we go through stuff, children are seen as resilient. They can bounce back from anything. That's from the book. But it doesn't mean that whatever they experienced didn't affect them. And I brought that up to mention, just to tie it to the point. I have learned, if you don't try to deal with those skeletons in your closet, if you don't try to deal with the stuff that you went through that affected you, whether you know it or not, because eventually you'll figure that out. I can't tell you what that was or what the result was. If you don't, it'll drive you crazy. Let me say that again. As an adult, once you get to a certain point, you should deal with the stuff that has affected you, whether it was other people's actions, your actions, or a combination of both. You have to deal with those things and make peace with them, make peace with that. Otherwise, it can drive you crazy. It doesn't mean that as an adult, everything is easy and you can just no. But by then, you should have an abundance of experiences. You probably have faced adversity at some point, so you know how to handle it. When you're 10 and when you're 11 and you get bullied or something like that, or when you're 8 and you see some domestic violence in the house, or when you're 15 and something happens to you inappropriately with somebody else, like, it's kind of easy to shelf that, you know what I mean, and keep moving forward, because you don't have the resources or even the brain capacity all the way to deal with that, probably. Again, I'm no expert. But when you get older, that stuff is only going to start creeping further and further and further up until it's at the top of your head. When it's something's on the tip of your tongue and you can't think of it, it's gonna come up and you're gonna think of it. And I don't have experiences from other people or anything like that. I can only speak for myself. It's not pleasant dealing with those things because, as I mentioned, it's easy to just keep burying those skeletons in the closet, and we all have them. Unless you want to lose your sanity or continue to self-destruct or to allow whatever insecurities or anything that have developed because of that, anxiety, depression, it's going to cause you to self-destruct in many ways. Also, this is obvious, but we don't think about it like that. When you get to a certain age, you don't have anybody to blame anymore because, as I mentioned, it's up to you. Disclaimer, these are all made up situations that maybe have happened to any of you or have actually happened, but nothing has happened to me, and these are just examples I'm using. If you were abused as a child, if you saw things you weren't supposed to see, if you got bullied, if you dealt with things that you weren't really supposed to deal with at certain ages, what sucks is that it happened. You can't take that back. You can't go back in the past. You can't go back in time like the Flash. We don't have that technology yet, if we ever will get it. So with that being said, you have to make peace with the fact that stuff happened to you. You have to make peace with the fact that you experienced or you saw and witnessed whatever it was that happened, and you can't change it, But the first step is to acknowledge it and accept it so you can make peace. The steps after that may vary. You kind of got to learn to forgive. Even if it was atrocious, not forgiving the individual or the entity or whatever for them, but for you. Because if you don't forgive, you create resentment, and resentment only destroys you. It doesn't destroy the other person, especially if they don't know. And even if they do know. To break it down a little further, like if you had issues with your parents young, or with your siblings young, or grandparents, cousins, aunties, uncles, what sucks is that it's not up to them to make amends. They may never, or they might. You might get it 40 years later, you might never get it. Or you might get it at their deathbed or something if you're around or present. All of that you have to deal with. So you have to take the initiative to go get therapy if you need to find healthy outlets to talk about what it was that happened, to figure out ways to move past it and to not let the trauma of it burden you in certain areas and affect you in certain ways and shake up your reality. All of that is on you, and you have to do it, otherwise it'll do what it wants to do towards you. And as I mentioned in my other video, who has the power? You do. You do. I do. We do. Not whatever it was that happened to us. Not whoever it was that did us wrong. You, me, and we have the power. So with that being said, to sum up this video, life ain't easy for none of us. We all have gone through whatever it was, good, bad, ugly, or evil. Once you get older and once you start to be able to think for yourself and to support yourself or whatever happened before, try to make peace with it the best you can. But you have to accept it and acknowledge it. Move forward, forgive, largely for you. And you have to find ways to heal so you don't lose your mind or go crazy and snap from whatever it is that has affected you. I hope this video helped. If it did in any way, please drop a like, comment, and or subscribe. Thank you. Stay tuned. See you for the next video.